Over the course of 26 years, the parrot had been her constant friend, providing her with comfort, amusement, and a source of confidence. Despite the fact that she had never been married and had never had children, she discovered a love that was as profound as any human connection in the brilliant feathers and knowing eyes of this bird. It was as if time itself had slowed down to reflect on this last minute that they had together. Despite the fact that it was normally so animated, the parrot remained completely quiet on its perch, its black eyes locked on her. Suddenly, as if it had a premonition of what was about to happen, it let out a gentle, melancholy cry, which was a sound that she had never heard from it before. They spoke with one another using a language that was uniquely theirs, which consisted of whistled tunes in the morning, silent whispers in the evening, and every conceivable secret in between. Now, as she lay on her bed, weak and deteriorating, the atmosphere in the room seemed to get heavier. In her eyes, tears began to fill up. There was complete silence in the room, and the nurses who were standing nearby with their hands pressed to their hearts were profoundly touched. It took a lot of effort for her to tilt her head toward her feathered companion, and her voice was hardly audible above a whisper. The first words that came out of her mouth were, "My sweet boy." The feathers of the parrot were moist with its own silent tears, as it placed its head against her fingers so that it may be held. "My happiness, my family, and my heart have all been you. Many thanks." For each and every song, each and every phrase, the nurses shed tears when they heard a scream that was so raw and so full of grief, as if it were waiting for her to come to and have another conversation with it. It remained by her side for a considerable amount of time, unwilling to depart. For loving me. While it was sitting in her favorite chair, it seemed to be waiting for her to come back by staring at the door. Although the nurses, moved by the bird's love, would talk gently to it, providing treats. In loving strokes, the bird would stay aloof, and its customary chatter would be replaced by an eerie quiet, an affection that, even in death, will never fully part ways with its other half. One tear fell down her face as she looked at me. After then, the parrot executed a move that nobody had anticipated, simply because love, in its most unadulterated form, is eternal. The bird extended its wings out wide and cocked its head to the side, as if it were listening to a voice that it alone could hear. As it started to sing her song, its feathers began to flutter, and it spoke in a voice that was so clear that it sent shivers throughout the room. When the evenings got longer, the lady would sing a lullaby to the bird, a tune that she had been whispering to the bird for many years. Those who were looking may have seen it at that moment, and serenity that had brought new tears to the eyes of everyone who was there. This was followed by a last happy sigh, and then it sat down on its perch, with its eyes half closed as if it were sleeping. Even while the world continued to go on, those who had seen their love for one another were aware of the truth. It did not only imitate her words, rather it communicated with her. However, it did not stir at all this time. It had gone by in the night, and it had done so in a calm manner, as if it had at last discovered what it had been looking for. It spoke things in a voice that was so kind, so painfully human. This would allow the children to go closer to the garden. Up to the point that he heard it, he was a pragmatic individual in his 60s, who did not believe in fairy tales or ghosts. Those who were the most courageous among them said that they seen glimpses of emerald green wings darting between the trees, or that they felt an odd warmth in the air. While they were standing close to the damaged headstones, despite the fact that the home was sold and the nurses went on with their lives. The rumor of the inseparable couple continued to circulate around the community, much like the scent of the white jasmine that grew wild around their graves, and bird knit together like two threads of the same soul. "Mama, don't go." When he got closer, the light from his lantern caught something that seemed impossible. A single feather of a vivid green color that was laying on top of the headstone, shimmering gently as if it were illuminated from inside. However, beginning that evening, new flowers would be placed on the graves of the twins every Sunday morning. Gardenias would be placed for her, and sunflower seeds would be placed for him. When the interested citizens of the town inquired about who was responsible for preserving the neglected plot, the elderly caretaker would just grin and respond. One of the people in the room let out a gasp. While the woman's heart was both shattering and flying at the same time, her lips began to shake. The parrot had never previously referred to her in such a manner. there is a possibility that you will see two shadows sitting together on the bench. One of them will have the unmistakable curve of a parrot's beak resting on the shoulder of a lady, whom he will be listening to while she tells him something else, unendingly. All these years, had it been able to comprehend her? In the same way that she loved it, had it loved her as deeply? She could hardly muster the last of her power before she extended a hand that was shaking. It said the word "Mama" once more. Then, with a last trembling gasp, she took her last breath and disappeared. Instead of mimicking, the parrot let forth a scream that was filled with anguish. At the conclusion of the day, the bird had bestowed upon her the most precious present of all, not only words, but a love that was incomprehensible in any other language. Even though the lady had passed away, those who had observed it were aware of the fact that some relationships are not even severed with the passing of a person. It took many days and then weeks, but the parrot would not leave the woman's chamber, which was completely vacant. Afterwards, on a certain evening, an astonishing event took place. A quick movement of the parrot's head occurred just as the last rays of sunlight from the setting sun penetrated the curtains. The nurses became very still. At that moment, one of them, with tears welling up in their eyes, said, "That's her song." The parrot, however, was not yet complete. It spoke once again in a voice that was no longer just a mimic, but rather the voice of something more profound, something that was almost spiritual. "Mama here." It then soared to the windowsill, where the golden light of sunset decorated the walls, as if it were being directed by a power that was not visible to the human eye. A gentle wind caused the drapes to rustle. They could have believed they saw the tiniest shimmer in the air, like the ghost of a grin or the whisper of a touch, for the briefest time. There was a last happy cry that the parrot gave out. A sound that was so full of recognition when they woke up the next morning, they discovered the parrot still there, with its head lovingly tucked beneath its wing. The nurses buried it next to the lady in the garden, so that the two of them may rest together under the same sky. There are certain spirits that are never fully separated, because their love is really unique. Not only were words involved, that was an eternity. There was a little garden where the lady and her parrot were resting side by side, and the years passed by like leaves falling from the trees in autumn. At dusk, children would challenge one another to approach the garden, saying that if you listened carefully, you might hear a voice singing bits of an ancient lullaby. One evening in December, when the temperature was exceptionally low, a new caretaker by the name of Elias was walking around the cemetery grounds. A whistle that is flawless and unmistakable, like the first few notes of Greensleeves. It was as if his blood had frozen. It seemed as if the song was emanating from the grave of the lady, where there was no sign of any living being. After then, the wind made its voice heard. Rather than being carried by gusts of wind or the rustle of leaves, it is a voice that is both human. You are safe. I am your kid, secure. Elias never divulged to anybody whatever it was that he saw that evening. Some loves never come to an end. They just acquire the ability to communicate in a variety of ways. Is it possible that you will go to the garden today while the moon is full?